My name is Emma Richardson, and this is the story of how I learned that sometimes the best revenge isn't served cold. It's served with a smile and a one-way ticket to reality. I had dropped $9,200 on what was supposed to be the dream vacation for my family, only to be kicked out right at the dinner table. But they forgot one crucial thing, the one they underestimated most, sometimes knows how to deliver the sweetest, most silent revenge. The fluorescent lights in my office at Trexport hummed their familiar tune as I reviewed the quarterly sales reports for my region. At 30, I'd worked my way up from sales associate to regional manager, overseeing distribution for one of the largest sporting equipment companies on the East Coast. My corner office overlooked downtown Charlotte, a view I'd earned through countless late nights and missed social events. But I didn't mind the sacrifice. I was building something, creating stability not just for myself, but for my entire family. My phone buzzed on the desk, Mom's contact photo lighting up the screen. I smiled despite the exhaustion weighing on my shoulders. Even after a 12-hour day, hearing from family always lifted my spirits. "Hi, Mom," I answered, tucking the phone between my shoulder and ear while organizing the reports. "Emma, sweetheart." Her voice carried that particular tone, the one that usually preceded a request for money. "How's my successful daughter doing?" "Just finishing up at the office. What's going on?" "Well, I was wondering if you could come for dinner tomorrow night. Your father and I have something important to discuss with you." My heart skipped. The Italy trip. Finally. They wanted to talk details about the vacation I'd been planning for 3 years. Every overtime hour, every missed happy hour with friends. Every sacrifice had been for this a 2-week Italian adventure for my family. Rome, Florence, Venice, the Amalfi Coast, first-class flights, 5-star hotels, private tours. I'd spared no expense. "Of course, Mom. Is this about Italy? Do you want to go over the itinerary?" There was a pause, just long enough to plant a seed of unease in my stomach. "Just come for dinner, honey. 7 o'clock sharp." The line went dead before I could ask more questions. I leaned back in my leather chair, staring at the framed photo on my desk, a family portrait from 5 years ago. Mom and Dad flanked me and my younger brother Lucas, all of us smiling at the camera. It was taken right before Dad's construction company went under, before Lucas dropped out of college, before I became the family's financial safety net. The thing about being the responsible one is that it becomes your identity. While Lucas bounced from job to job, collecting unemployment more often than paychecks, I climbed the corporate ladder. When Mom and Dad's retirement savings evaporated in bad investments, I stepped up with monthly support. When Lucas's credit card debt threatened to drown him, I negotiated with creditors and set up payment plans from my own accounts. I never complained. Family takes care of family, that's what we were taught growing up. But somewhere along the way, my success became their expectation. My generosity, their entitlement. The next evening, I pulled into my parents' driveway in Huntersville, the modest ranch house looking exactly as it had since my childhood. The American flag Dad insisted on flying still fluttered from the front porch, and Mom's garden gnome stood guard along the walkway. Normal, familiar, safe. But something felt different. Lucas's beat-up Honda sat in its usual spot, but beside it was a car I didn't recognize, a shiny red Mazda with a bedazzled license plate frame that screamed, "Princess." "Sophie." My jaw tightened involuntarily. Lucas's girlfriend of 8 months had been a frequent topic of family dinners lately. 25 years old, unemployed, and according to Lucas, finding herself. What she seemed to be finding most successfully was ways to spend Lucas's sporadic income on designer handbags and spa treatments. I grabbed the bottle of wine I'd brought, a nice Chianti in honor of our upcoming trip, and headed for the front door. Before I could knock, it swung open. "Emma." Mom pulled me into a hug that felt strangely stiff. Come in, everyone's waiting." Everyone. The word settled in my stomach like a stone. The dining room table was set with Mom's good china, the ones she only brought out for holidays and special occasions. Dad sat at the head of the table, avoiding my eyes. Lucas lounged in his usual spot, arm draped possessively around Sophie, who was examining her acrylic nails with intense focus. "Hi, everyone," I said, setting the wine on the table. "This looks nice. Mom." "Sit, sit." Mom ushered me to my chair notably, not my usual spot next to Dad, but farther down the table. "Let me get the lasagna." Dinner started with stilted small talk. Dad asked about work. Lucas bragged about a potential job opportunity that sounded suspiciously like another pyramid scheme. Sophie contributed by taking multiple selfies with her plate, declaring the lasagna totally Insta-worthy. I waited. The Italy conversation had to be coming. Maybe they wanted to add something to the itinerary. Maybe Dad had concerns about the travel insurance. Maybe. "So, Emma," Mom finally said, setting down her fork with deliberate precision, "about the Italy trip." Here it was. I straightened in my chair, ready to pull out my phone and show them the boutique hotel in Rome, the cooking class I'd booked in Tuscany, the private boat tour of the Amalfi Coast. "We've been doing some thinking," Dad said, his voice gruff. He still wouldn't meet my eyes. "And we've made a decision as a family," Mom added. "As a family, without me." "Sophie's coming with us," Lucas announced, pulling his girlfriend closer. She smirked, a cat that got the cream expression that made my skin crawl. I blinked. "That's great. I mean, I'd have to see about adding another person to the reservations. But that's the thing, sweetie." Mom interrupted, reaching across the table like she wanted to pat my hand, but stopping short. "We won't need to add anyone." The room seemed to tilt. "What do you mean?" "It's just better this way." Dad finally looked at me, his weathered face set in lines of determination. "Lucas and Sophie, they're building a future together. They need this time to bond, to create memories. And you'll understand, won't you?" Mom's voice had taken on that wheedling tone she used when she wanted money for a new appliance or Dad's fishing trips. "You're so successful, so independent. You can take your own vacation anytime." I stared at them, waiting for the punchline. This had to be a joke. A cruel, twisted joke. "You're uninviting me from the trip I planned. The trip I paid for." "Don't be dramatic." Lucas rolled his eyes. "You can afford to book another vacation. Hell, book the same hotels if you want. Follow us around Italy like a stalker." Sophie giggled, actually giggled. "I saved for 3 years," I said slowly, my voice surprisingly steady despite the earthquake happening inside my chest. $9,200. Every penny saved from overtime, bonuses, skipped vacations of my own. "And we're so grateful." Mom rushed to say, "This is why we know you'll understand. It's about Lucas's happiness. Sophie's never been to Europe. Can you imagine how special this will be for them?" While I sit at home. "You're being selfish," Lucas snapped. "Everything isn't about you, Emma. For once, can't you just be happy for me?" Selfish. The word hung in the air like a slap. I looked around the table at my family. The people I'd supported, bailed out, sacrificed for. Dad shifted uncomfortably, but maintained his stern expression. Mom wrung her hands, but didn't take back the words. Lucas glared at me with the righteousness of the habitually entitled. And Sophie? Sophie looked triumphant. "So, let me make sure I understand," I said, my voice taking on the calm, professional tone I used in difficult business negotiations. "I'm being excluded from the vacation I single-handedly funded so that my unemployed brother and his unemployed girlfriend can have a romantic getaway on my dime." "When you put it like that, you make it sound terrible," Mom protested. "How should I put it?" "Like a loving sister who wants her brother to be happy." Sophie spoke up for the first time, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "Lucas told me how you're always showing off, making everyone feel bad about not having money. Maybe this is a chance for you to be genuinely generous instead of holding it over everyone's heads." The audacity knocked the breath from my lungs. I'd never once thrown my financial support in their faces. Every check written, every bill paid, every debt cleared had been done quietly, without fanfare or expectation of thanks. "Is that what you all think?" I asked quietly. That I've been showing off. The silence was answer enough. I stood up slowly, mechanically. My hands weren't shaking a small mercy. "Where are you going?" Mom asked. "You haven't finished dinner?" "I've lost my appetite." "Emma, don't be like this," Dad said. "Sit down, be reasonable." Reasonable. They wanted reasonable after ambushing me with this betrayal disguised as a family dinner. "The tickets are in my email," I said, gathering my purse. "The hotel confirmations, too. Everything's under my name and credit card." "We know," Lucas said. "We figured you could just call and change the main contact. Sophie already picked out some great restaurants she wants to try." Of course she had. I looked at my brother, really looked at him. When had he become this person? When had the little boy who used to split his Halloween candy with me turned into someone who could orchestrate such casual cruelty? "Enjoy your dinner," I said, heading for the door. "Emma," Mom called after me. "What about the trip? Will you call the hotels?" I paused at the doorway, not turning around. "I'll handle it." The drive home was a blur. Muscle memory navigated the familiar streets while my mind reeled. By the time I pulled into my apartment complex in uptown Charlotte, the shock was wearing off, replaced by something else. Something hot and sharp and clarifying. Anger. I made it to my apartment, closed the door, and slid down against it until I was sitting on the floor. The tears came then hot. Angry tears that I'd held back through sheer will at my parents' house. 3 years. 3 years of saying no to concerts, to weekend trips with friends, to the designer shoes that caught my eye. 3 years of brown bag lunches and skipped Starbucks runs. Also, my family could experience something magical together. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. "I know you're upset now, but you'll see this is for the best. Lucas really loves Sophie. Be happy for them." I laughed, a harsh, bitter sound in my empty apartment. Be happy for them? Be happy to be excluded, dismissed, discarded like yesterday's newspaper. Another text, this one from Lucas. "Thanks for understanding, sis. Sophie's already planning her outfits. She's so excited." Understanding, is that what they thought this was? I hauled myself off the floor and went to my laptop. The Italy folder sat on my desktop, mocking me with its cheerful sunset icon. Inside were dozens of files, hotel confirmations, flight information, tour bookings, restaurant reservations. Months of meticulous planning reduced to digital detritus. My finger hovered over the delete key. It would be so easy to wash my hands of it all, to let them figure out the mess of transferring reservations and changing names. Most were non-refundable at this point anyway. But something stopped me. A different idea was forming, tentative at first but growing stronger with each passing minute. They wanted me to handle it. Fine, I'd handle it. I opened my email and began typing. The next morning, I woke with a hangover of emotion rather than wine. The events of the previous evening felt surreal, like a nightmare I couldn't quite shake. But the emails in my sent folder confirmed it had all been real. Cancellation confirmations from hotels, from airlines, from tour companies. I'd taken the financial hit, thousands in lost deposits, but it was worth it for what came next. My phone rang at 7 a.m. "Mom!" "Good morning," I answered, injecting false cheer into my voice. "Emma, I just wanted to check that you took care of the reservations. Sophie is anxious to start planning her wardrobe." "All handled," I said truthfully. "Oh, good. I knew we could count on you. And Emma, I'm proud of you for being so mature about this. It shows real character." Character, if only she knew. "Thanks, Mom. Hey, when's the trip again? I want to make sure I don't accidentally call during your vacation." 2 weeks from Saturday. Our flight leaves at 3 p.m. "Perfect. Have you started packing?" Mom laughed. "Your father's already made 3 lists. You know how he is about international travel." I did know. Dad, who'd never left the country, had been researching Italy obsessively since I'd announced the trip. He'd downloaded language apps, read guidebooks, watched every Rick Steves episode about Italy twice. This trip meant everything to him. The knowledge sat heavy in my chest. But then I remembered him sitting at that table, avoiding my eyes while they handed my dream to Sophie on a silver platter. I should get ready for work, I said. Talk to you later. Oh, Emma, one more thing. We're thinking of having an engagement party for Lucas and Sophie when we get back. Nothing fancy, just family and close friends. You'll help with the costs, won't you? The casualness of the assumption that my wallet was forever open sparked fresh anger. An engagement I didn't know they were engaged. Well, not officially, but Lucas is planning to propose in Italy. Isn't that romantic? Sophie doesn't know, so don't say anything if you see her. If I saw her, as if I had any intention of seeing any of them before they left. How wonderful, I managed. I really do need to go. Of course, sweetheart. Have a good day at work. I hung up and stared at my reflection in the bathroom mirror. The woman looking back at me seemed different somehow. Harder. Determined. 2 weeks. I had 2 weeks to plan the second act of this little drama. The days passed in a strange fugue state, at work. I was the same efficient, professional Emma everyone expected. I ran meetings, closed deals, mentored junior staff, but underneath, a different Emma was emerging, one who'd finally had enough. The family group chat, which I notably hadn't been removed from, became a source of dark entertainment. Lucas, Sophie found the perfect dress for Rome, photo attached. Mom, beautiful Emma, didn't you say something about dress codes for the nice restaurants? I didn't respond. Let them figure it out. Dad, practiced ordering coffee in Italian today. Vorrei un caffè, per favore. Sophie, OMG, so authentic you'll have to order for all of us. The casual cruelty of their excitement, their complete obliviousness to what they'd done, was almost impressive. They were so secure in their treatment of me, so confident I'd continue being their personal ATM, that they didn't even notice my silence. A week before the trip, Lucas called. Hey, sis, long time no talk. Hi, Lucas. So, weird question, but do you still have the confirmation emails for the hotels Sophie wants to call ahead and request a room with a view for the proposal? I'm sure I have them somewhere. I lied smoothly. I'll look when I get home. Cool. Hey, while I have you, Sophie's been stressed about money for the trip. You know, shopping and extras and stuff. I was thinking. You were thinking I'd give you spending money. Well, yeah, I mean, what's a vacation without shopping? Right. Sophie's never had nice things. This is her chance. The entitlement in his voice was breathtaking. How much were you thinking? I don't know, maybe a couple thousand. You know I'm good for it once I get this new job off the ground. The mysterious new job that had yet to materialize in the 2 weeks since dinner. I'll think about it, I said. You're the best. Oh, and Mom wanted me to ask you, did get travel insurance on everything, right? Just in case. Of course, I lied again. Safe travels, Lucas. We're not leaving for another week. Right. Well, talk to you later. I hung up before he could ask for anything else. The final week crawled by. The family chat exploded with packing lists, weather forecasts, and Sophie's endless selfies in various Italy-inspired outfits. They discussed which sights to see first, where to eat, how early to get to the airport. Through it all, I stayed silent. 3 days before departure, Mom called again. Emma, honey, I wanted to give you our itinerary. You know, in case of emergencies. That's thoughtful, I said, pretending to write down the information I already knew by heart. And I wanted to say, I know the dinner was hard for you, but seeing how happy Lucas and Sophie are, doesn't it make it worth it? Your sacrifice means so much to them. My sacrifice, as if I'd been given a choice. I hope they have a wonderful time, I said, meaning it. I hope they had a wonderful time getting there, at least. You're such a good daughter. Oh, I almost forgot. Could you pop by the house and water my plants while we're gone? You still have the spare key. Right. The asks never stopped. Even excluded from the family vacation, I was still expected to serve. Sure, Mom. You're an angel. We'll bring you back something nice from Italy. A keychain, probably, or a snow globe. something that cost €5 and represented the sum total of their consideration for me. Can't wait, I said. The night before their departure, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, second-guessing myself. Was this too cruel? Too petty should I call and warn them? Then I remembered Sophie's smirk, Lucas's eye roll, Dad's cowardice, Mom's manipulation disguised as sweetness. No, they'd made their choice. Now they could live with the consequences. Departure day dawned bright and clear. I knew their schedule, had memorized it. In fact, they'd leave the house at noon for a 3 p.m. flight, always early. That was Dad's rule for air travel. At 11:30, my phone rang. Mom. Hi, sweetheart. We're about to leave for the airport. How exciting, I said, staring out my office window. Everyone ready. Oh, you know your father. He's been ready since dawn. And Sophie. You should see how many suitcases that girl has. Good thing we're checking bags. Good thing indeed. Shame about those return tickets, though. I wanted to thank you again, Mom continued. I know this wasn't easy for you, but you've handled it with such grace. We'll think of you every step of the way. I'm sure you will, I said. Oh, could you swing by tomorrow for the plants? I forgot to water them yesterday. Of course. You're the best. Okay, your father's honking. Italy. Here we come. Love you. Have a safe flight, I said, and meant it. The flight, at least, would go smoothly. I hung up and turned back to my computer. In a few hours, they'd land in Rome, tired but excited. They'd collect their bags, Sophie's numerous bags, and head to the hotel. And that's when the real fun would begin. A vindictive part of me wished I could be there to see their faces when the hotel had no record of their reservation. When they realized the return flights I'd supposedly transferred to their names didn't exist. When it dawned on them that their dream vacation was about to become a very expensive nightmare. But I had work to do. Reports to file, meetings to attend, a life to live that didn't revolve around ungrateful family members. At 4 p.m. Charlotte time, 10 p.m. in Rome, my phone exploded. Missed calls from Mom, Dad, Lucas, texts in rapid succession. Mom. Emma, there's a problem with the hotel. Lucas, what did you do? Dad, call immediately. Mom. They say our reservation was canceled weeks ago. Lucas, this isn't funny. Emma, fix this now. I let the calls go to voicemail, the texts pile up unread. I had a conference call with the West Coast team, couldn't be disturbed. By 5 p.m., the voicemails had turned frantic. Mom, near tears. Emma, please, we're stranded at the Rome airport. The hotel says you canceled everything. This must be a mistake. Please call back. Lucas, furious. I know you're ignoring us. This is bullshit. Emma, you can't just strand us here because you're being petty. Dad, stern. Emma Jane Richardson, you call us back this instant. This behavior is unacceptable. Sophie, shrill in the background of Lucas's second voicemail. I told you she was a vindictive bitch. She planned this. Well, Sophie had that part right, at least. At 6 p.m., I finally listened to all the messages. The progression from confusion to anger to panic was quite something. In the final message, Mom was crying. Emma, please. We're at the airport hotel, but it's so expensive, and they want payment up front. The return flights are gone too. We can't afford to rebook everything. Please, honey. Whatever we did, we're sorry. Just help us fix this. Whatever we did. As if they didn't know exactly what they did. I texted back a single message to the family group chat. In meetings all day. We'll try to call later. Then I turned off my phone and went to dinner with friends. Samantha, my closest friend at Treksport, noticed my mood immediately. You seem different tonight. Good different. Did you finally take that vacation you've been planning? In a way, I said, raising my wine glass. I decided to give it to my family instead. That's so generous of you, Megan, another friend, gushed. I wish my family was that close. I smiled. Yes, we're very close. Some might say too close. The evening was lovely. Good food, better wine, best friends. For the first time in years, I didn't check my bank balance before ordering. Didn't mentally calculate how much I'd need to send mom for utilities or set aside for Lucas's next crisis. I just enjoyed myself. When I finally turned my phone back on around 11 p.m., it nearly vibrated off the table. 47 missed calls, over 100 texts. The family group chat had devolved into complete chaos. Lucas had tried to book new hotels, but discovered that everything within their budget was full. It was peak tourist season, after all. The prices for what was available were astronomical. Dad had attempted to rebook return flights and nearly had a heart attack at the cost over $2,000 per person for last-minute international tickets. Mom had reached out to distant relatives in Italy, desperately seeking somewhere to stay. And Sophie? Sophie had gone nuclear. I knew she would pull something like this. She's always been jealous of me, jealous that Lucas loves me. This is probably illegal. We should sue her. I scrolled through the messages, feeling oddly detached. They were still in the airport hotel, bleeding money they didn't have, trying to figure out their next move. Finally, a text from Mom that made me pause. Emma, I understand you're hurt. We hurt you. But this is too much. Your father's blood pressure is through the roof. Lucas is talking about taking out a payday loan just to get us home. Please. We're family. Family. The word that had always been weaponized against me. Family helps family. Family sacrifices for family. Family forgives family. But what about family respects family? What about family includes family? What about family doesn't take advantage of family's generosity until there's nothing left to give? I typed out a response. I'm sorry to hear you're having difficulties. As you reminded me at dinner, I can take my own vacation anytime. I assumed you could handle the same. After all, I'm sure Sophie packed some very Insta-worthy outfits that shouldn't go to waste. The response was immediate, Lucas calling. I let it ring. He called again. And again. On the fourth call, I answered. What the hell is wrong with you? He screamed so loud I had to hold the phone away from my ear. Lower your voice, I said calmly. Lower my... Emma. We're stranded in fucking Rome. Sophie is crying Mom's having a panic attack, and you're playing games. I'm not playing anything. I did exactly what you asked. I handled the reservations. You canceled them. Yes, I handled it by canceling them. You'll get most of the deposits back in 7 to 10 business days. This isn't funny. I'm not laughing. There was a pause. When he spoke again, his voice was different. Desperate. Emma, please, I know we messed up, but we can't afford this. You know we can't afford this. Then why did you think you could afford to take my place on a $9, $200 vacation? That's different. How? Because you were paying for it. The admission hung between us, stark and ugly. Exactly, I said. I was paying for it, my money, my vacation, my choice what to do with it. So you chose to ruin our lives? Your lives aren't ruined, Lucas. You're in Rome. Sophie always wanted to go to Europe, right? Well, here's her chance. I'm sure she can figure something out. She seems very resourceful. Emma. I hung up. The calls continued through the night. I turned off my phone and went to bed. The next morning, I woke feeling lighter than I had in years. I made myself a luxurious breakfast eggs Benedict, fresh fruit, good coffee, and enjoyed it on my balcony overlooking the city. My city. The one I'd worked hard to build a life in. Around 10 a.m., I turned on my phone. The battery was nearly dead from the constant attempted calls. I plugged it in and watched the notifications pile up. The family chat had gone quiet around 4 a.m. Rome time. The last message was from Dad. We figured out accommodations. We'll discuss this when we return. Accommodations. I wondered what hostel they'd ended up in, what compromises they'd had to make. Part of me, a small part, felt a twinge of guilt. But then I remembered sitting at that dinner table, being told I was selfish for wanting to enjoy the vacation I'd paid for. I spent the day doing things I'd put off for months. Got a massage, bought those designer shoes I'd been eyeing, had lunch at the new French bistro downtown, the one I'd been too busy to try. That evening, curiosity got the better of me. I checked Sophie's Instagram. Gone were the posed photos in front of Roman landmarks. Instead, there was a single story, a grainy photo of what looked like a hostel room with the caption, "When people show you who they are, believe them." Subtle, Sophie, very subtle. 2 days into their vacation, Mom broke the radio silence with a long email. "Emma, I've had time to think about what happened, and I need you to understand something. We are family. Family forgives. Family helps each other. What you've done goes against everything we taught you. Yes, maybe we handled the dinner poorly, but your response has been cruel beyond measure. Your father and I are retired, living on a fixed income. Lucas is trying to build a future with Sophie, and you have so much. Was it really too much to ask for you to share? We've managed to salvage part of the trip, though it's nothing like what we planned. We're staying in a hostel outside the city. Your father's back is killing him from the beds. Lucas and Sophie are fighting constantly because of the stress. Is this what you wanted? To see your family suffer? I'm disappointed in you, Emma. Not angry, just deeply, deeply disappointed. I thought I raised you better than this. Despite everything, we still love you. When we get home, if we can afford to get home, we need to have a serious conversation about your priorities and your place in this family." Mom, I read the email twice, waiting to feel something. Guilt, maybe. Regret, even anger at the manipulation dripping from every word. Instead, I felt free. I crafted my response carefully. Mom, you're right, we are family. Which is why I'm so hurt that my family conspired to exclude me from a vacation I planned and paid for. Family should support each other, not take advantage of each other's generosity. You say I have so much, but what you refuse to acknowledge is that I worked for everything I have. While Lucas was dropping out of college, I was studying. While he was jumping from job to job, I was building a career. While he was maxing out credit cards, I was saving and investing. I've paid your utility bills for 2 years. I've covered Dad's medical expenses. I've bailed Lucas out of debt 3 times. I've never asked for thanks, but I did expect basic respect. Instead, I got ambushed at a dinner and told my sacrifice was expected because I can afford it. You're disappointed in me. I'm disappointed that my family sees me as nothing more than a bank account with convenient hours. Enjoy the rest of your trip. I hear Rome is beautiful, even from a hostel. Emma. I hit send before I could second-guess myself. The response came within hours, not from Mom, but from Lucas. You think you're so much better than us, don't you? With your fancy job and your downtown apartment, well, guess what? Money isn't everything. Sophie and I have love. Mom and Dad have each other. What do you have? Nothing but your cold, empty life and your bank statements. When we get back, don't bother coming around. You're not welcome in our family anymore. You made your choice. I stared at the message, waiting for the pain to hit. Instead, I felt a strange sense of relief. He'd said it out loud, finally. The thing they'd all been dancing around for years. I wasn't family to them, I was a resource. And now that the resource had dried up, I was disposable. I understand, I replied. I'll have Mom's spare key left in the mailbox. Good luck with everything. Then I did something I should have done years ago. I left the family group chat. The rest of their trip passed in blessed silence. I threw myself into work, into friends, into life. I signed up for the art class I'd always wanted to take, joined a hiking group, started dating again, something I'd put on hold because weekends were always filled with family obligations and financial stress. A week after they were supposed to return, I got a call from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. Emma, Dad's voice, tired and old. Hi, Dad. We're back. Good. There was a long pause. It was a disaster, Emma. The whole trip. We spent more trying to fix everything than the original vacation would have cost. Sophie left Lucas in Venice, took a train to Paris to stay with some friend. Lucas is devastated. Your mother won't stop crying. Are you happy now? I'm not happy that you're suffering, I said honestly. But I'm not responsible for your suffering either. You made choices. These are the consequences. We're your family. Are we? Because family doesn't exclude family from vacations they paid for. Family doesn't treat family like an ATM. Family doesn't ambush family at dinner to tell them they're being replaced by someone who's been around for less than a year. Sophie's gone, he said quietly. Left Lucas a note saying she didn't sign up for poverty. Took the engagement ring he bought with the last of his savings. I felt a pang for Lucas, not enough to break my resolve, but a pang nonetheless. I'm sorry to hear that. Your mother wants to talk to you. I don't think that's a good idea. Emma, please, she's not well. The stress of the trip, losing Sophie, the money troubles, it's too much. The old guilt buttons, worn but still functional. But something had shifted in me. The buttons were there, but the wiring had been cut. Dad, I've been supplementing your income for 2 years. I've paid off Lucas's debts multiple times. I've sacrificed vacations, relationships, and opportunities to make sure you all were taken care of. And the one time I planned something for myself, something I invited you all to share. You took it away from me, not because you needed it, but because you could. Because you assumed I'd roll over like I always do. We made a mistake. No. Dad, a mistake is forgetting to call on my birthday. A mistake is double booking dinner plans. What you did was calculated and cruel. And the worst part, you felt entitled to do it. You felt entitled to my money, my sacrifice, my vacation. Because that's what I'd trained you to expect. Well, I'm done. I love you. But I'm done enabling this dysfunction. So that's it. You're cutting us off your own family. I'm setting boundaries. If we can have a relationship based on mutual respect rather than financial exploitation, I'm open to that. But I won't be anyone's personal ATM anymore, not even family. He was quiet for so long I thought he'd hung up. Then, your mother's going to take this hard. Mom's a strong woman. She'll adapt. You all will. You did before I started bankrolling everyone, and you'll do fine now. Is there anything I can say to change your mind? You could start with, I'm sorry for taking advantage of you. But honestly, Dad, I think we all need some time. This didn't happen overnight, and it won't be fixed overnight either. I see. Well, take care of yourself, Emma. You too, Dad. I hung up and sat in the silence of my apartment. Outside, Charlotte hummed with life. People going about their days, living their lives, making their own choices, and facing their own consequences. 3 months passed. Summer faded into fall. The family maintained their silence, and I maintained my boundaries. Through the grapevine of mutual acquaintances, I heard updates Lucas had gotten a job, a real one this time. Waiting tables at a chain restaurant. Mom had started selling things on Facebook Marketplace to make ends meet. Dad had picked up some handyman work despite his bad back. They were surviving. More than that, they were being forced to solve their own problems instead of calling me. I'd be lying if I said it was easy. 29 years of conditioning doesn't disappear overnight. There were moments of weakness when I'd pull up Mom's contact, finger hovering over the call button. Moments when I'd see something that reminded me of Lucas and wonder if I'd been too harsh. Moments when the guilt threatened to overwhelm the righteous anger. But then I'd remember Sophie's smirk. The casual way they'd discussed my exclusion while eating the dinner I'd bought groceries for. The years of sacrifice met with entitlement instead of gratitude. And I'd put the phone down. One rainy Thursday evening, I was cooking dinner when my doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. And the building had a secured entry. Wiping my hands on a dish towel, I peered through the peephole. Lucas! He looked different, thinner, older somehow. His usual cocky expression replaced by something I'd never seen before, humility. I debated not answering, but curiosity won. Lucas, I said, opening the door but not inviting him in. Hi, Emma. He shoved his hands in his pockets, rocking back on his heels. I was hoping we could talk. About, "Can I come in? It's wet out here." I stepped aside, letting him enter. He looked around my apartment, really looked, maybe for the first time. "Nice place," he said. "I never really noticed before." "You were usually too busy asking for money to notice." He flinched. "Yeah, I deserve that." I gestured to the couch. "Want something to drink?" "Just water, thanks." I poured 2 glasses and sat across from him, waiting. "I've been doing a lot of thinking," he started. "About Italy. About everything. And I owe you an apology. A real one, not the half-assed, sorry you're upset kind." I raised an eyebrow, saying nothing. "I was an entitled asshole," he continued. "Have been for years. I watched you work yourself to death, and instead of being proud or grateful, I just expected it. Like, you owed us success because you had it and we didn't." "Go on." "The Italy thing. God. Emma. I'm so sorry. It was Sophie's idea originally. But I jumped on it. I convinced Mom and Dad that you'd be fine with it, that you'd understand. I painted this picture of you as someone who had so much that losing a vacation wouldn't matter. But that wasn't fair. It wasn't right. And it sure as hell wasn't brotherly." "No," I agreed. "It wasn't." "I've been working," he said, a note of pride creeping in. "Waiting tables. It's hard work, harder than I expected. But I'm good at it. Making decent tips. I've been helping Mom and Dad with bills." "That's good, Lucas." "It feels good," he admitted. "Being useful, contributing instead of just taking." He paused, meeting my eyes. "I get it now. Why you cut us off. We weren't family to you, we were leeches. And the worst part is, we made you feel guilty for our feeding." The honesty was refreshing. "What about Sophie?" His face darkened. "Gone. The moment things got hard, she bailed. Turns out she was more interested in the lifestyle she thought I could provide than in me. Joke's on her, I guess. And me. I'm sorry. Don't be." It was a wake-up call. I'd been living in this fantasy where I was some kind of temporarily embarrassed millionaire. You know, like success was just around the corner if I could just catch the right break. But watching you... "Emma, you didn't get breaks. You made your own way. Everyone's path is different." "No," he interrupted. "Don't do that. Don't minimize what you've accomplished to make me feel better. That's what got us here in the first place." He took a deep breath. "I'm not here to ask for money. I'm not here to guilt you into taking us back. I wanted to apologize, really apologize, and to say that I understand if you never want to see us again. I studied my little brother, really studied him. There was something different about him beyond the weight loss and the humility. A spark of the person he could have been all along if we hadn't enabled his worst impulses." "I appreciate the apology," I said finally. "And I'm glad you're doing well." "But..." "No buts. I accept your apology. That doesn't mean things go back to how they were, but it's a start." His face lit up with cautious hope. "Really? Really? But Lucas, I need you to understand something. I'm done being the family safety net. I'm done bailing people out. If we're going to have a relationship, it needs to be as equals. No money talk, no guilt trips, no expectations. Can you handle that?" "I can," he said quickly. "I want to. I miss my sister, not your wallet." "Then maybe we can grab coffee sometime. Catch up properly." "I'd like that." He stood to leave, then paused. "Mom and Dad, they're struggling with all this. Not just financially, but with accepting their role in it. Mom keeps saying you'll come around when you're done being dramatic. Dad just goes quiet whenever your name comes up. They're adults. They'll figure it out." "Yeah." He headed for the door, then turned back. "Emma, thank you for hearing me out, for everything you did for us over the years, even if we didn't appreciate it, and for finally standing up for yourself. I think it might have saved us all in the end." After he left, I sat in my quiet apartment, processing the conversation. It was progress. Maybe. Or maybe it was just another manipulation, a more sophisticated version of the guilt trips I'd grown accustomed to. Time would tell. I returned to my cooking, mind wandering to Italy. The irony wasn't lost on me in trying to steal my vacation. They'd ended up having the worst trip of their lives while giving me something priceless: my freedom. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I almost deleted it unread, but something made me open it. "Hi, Emma. This is Sophie. I know I'm probably the last person you want to hear from, but I wanted to say something. What you did in Italy was brilliant. Cruel, but brilliant. I deserved it. We all did. I've been thinking about what you said about people showing who they are. You're right. I showed you exactly who I was, and you believed me. I respect that. Good luck with everything. P.S. You should know Lucas has really changed. Maybe give him a chance." I deleted the message without responding. Sophie's approval meant less than nothing to me, but it was interesting that even she could see the justice in what I'd done. The next few months passed quietly. Lucas and I met for coffee every few weeks. True to his word, he never asked for money, never hinted at financial troubles. We talked about work, movies, sports, normal sibling stuff. It was nice, if still a bit fragile. Mom and Dad maintained their silence. I heard through Lucas that they were managing, though things were tight. Dad had swallowed his pride and taken a part-time job at a hardware store. Mom had started a small business making crafts for local fairs. They were adapting, slowly and grudgingly, to a life without my financial support. "They'll come around," Lucas said during one of our coffee meetings. "They're just stubborn." "I'm not holding my breath," I replied. "And I'm not waiting for them either. I've got my own life to live." And I did. I threw myself into that life with the energy I'd previously reserved for managing family crises. I traveled solo trips to places I'd always wanted to see. I dated without the constant interruptions of family emergencies. I saved money for my own future instead of supplementing everyone else's present. 6 months after Italy, I was promoted to Vice President of Regional Operations. The salary increase was substantial, the kind of money that would have once had me mentally calculating how much I could send home. Instead, I celebrated with friends and started looking at investment properties. That night, I came home to find a letter slipped under my door, Mom's handwriting. "Dear Emma, I've started this letter 100 times over the past months. Each time, I write pages of justifications and explanations, defending our actions and painting myself as the victim. Each time, I tear it up because I know that's not what you need to hear. What you need to hear is this: I'm sorry. I'm sorry for taking you for granted. I'm sorry for treating your success as our safety net. I'm sorry for the dinner, for Italy, for years of emotional manipulation disguised as maternal love. You were right to cut us off. It forced us to look at ourselves, really look. And we didn't like what we saw. We'd become parasites, feeding off your hard work while contributing nothing but guilt and demands in return. Your father and I are working now. It's hard at our age, but it's honest work. We're learning to budget, to save, to live within our means. Things we should have been doing all along instead of relying on you. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't expect you to welcome us back with open arms. I just wanted you to know that I understand now. I see what we did to you, how we diminished your achievements and exploited your love. You're an amazing woman, Emma, not because of your success or your money, but because of your strength. It took incredible courage to stand up to us, to break the cycle we'd trapped you in. I'm proud of you, even if I have no right to be. If you ever want to talk, I'm here. If you don't, I understand that too. Just know that you're loved properly this time, without conditions or price tags. Mom. I read the letter 3 times, tears blurring the words by the end. It was everything I'd wanted to hear, needed to hear. But was it real, or just another manipulation, refined by desperation? I put the letter in my desk drawer. I'd think about it later, or tomorrow, or next month. For now, I had dinner plans with friends, a life to live that wasn't defined by family dysfunction. 2 years have passed since the Italy incident, 2 years of growth, healing, and hard-won peace. The family dynamics have shifted completely, reshaped by the boundaries I enforced through fire. Lucas and I have rebuilt our relationship from the ground up. He's management at the restaurant now, proud of his work and his independence. We meet monthly for dinner, Dutch treat, always. He's dating someone new, a teacher named Maria who seems genuinely kind and definitely self-sufficient. When he introduced us, he said, "Maria, this is my sister Emma. She taught me the importance of standing on your own 2 feet." The pride in his voice was worth more than any repayment could have been. Mom and I talk occasionally. Surface-level conversations about weather and work. But there's warmth there that wasn't before. She doesn't ask for money. She doesn't guilt trip. She tells me about her craft business, about the friends she's made at the senior center where she teaches knitting. There's a vitality to her that I never saw when she was living off my checks. Dad remains the holdout, too proud or too hurt to bridge the gap. But Lucas tells me he keeps newspaper clippings of my promotion announcements, that he brags about his executive daughter to his coworkers. Maybe someday we'll find our way back to each other. Maybe not. I've made peace with both possibilities. The Italy trip became family legend, spoken of in hushed tones when they think I'm not listening. Remember Rome has become shorthand for the consequences of taking someone for granted. It's a cautionary tale, a turning point, the moment everything changed. But for me, it's more than that. It's the moment I chose myself. The moment I stopped setting myself on fire to keep others warm. The moment I learned that love without respect isn't love at all. It's exploitation wearing a familial mask. I did take that trip to Italy eventually. Solo, on my own terms. With no one's preferences to consider but my own. I stayed in beautiful hotels, ate at wonderful restaurants, saw every sight I'd planned to see with them. And you know what? It was perfect. Not because I was alone, but because I was free. Standing on a terrace in Positano, watching the sun set over the Mediterranean, I raised a glass of limoncello to the woman I'd become. The one who knew her worth, the one who set boundaries, the one who understood that sometimes the kindest thing you can do for someone is to stop enabling their worst impulses. My phone buzzed with a text from Lucas. Saw the sunset pic on Instagram. Looks amazing. Proud of you, sis. I smiled, typing back, thanks, proud of you too. And I meant it. We'd all come so far from that dinner table where I'd been casually discarded. The journey had been painful, but the destination was worth it. As the stars came out over the Amalfi Coast, I thought about family. Not the family we're born into, but the family we choose to build. The relationships based on mutual respect, genuine care, and reciprocal support. Lucas and I were building that now. Maybe, in time, the others would join us. Or maybe they wouldn't, and that was okay too. Because I'd learned the most important lesson of all: you can't pour from an empty cup. And my cup, it was finally, blessedly, full. The waiter approached with the check for my dinner. I paid it without a second thought, without mental calculations about what I'd have left over for others. The freedom of that simple act still thrilled me. Tomorrow I'd fly to Venice, then Florence, then Rome. I'd retrace the steps of the trip that never was, creating new memories to overlay the old betrayal. But tonight, I was content to sit on this terrace, watching the lights twinkle along the coast, knowing that the best revenge isn't served cold. It's served with boundaries, self-respect, and the quiet satisfaction of a life well lived on your own terms. My name is Emma Richardson. I'm 32 years old. I'm successful, independent, and no longer anyone's ATM. And this is just the beginning.